welcome to Bandwidth. Today, the youth are taking over. Little Stella's playing hooky to focus on their album. You're going to hear Alyssa Reed explain how covering the beads made her an Ontarian pop sensation in her own right. And teenage globetrotter Liam Callan talks about learning music from a Filipino minstrel. All this and more is coming up on your Ontario Music Magazine, Bandwidth. Hey, welcome to the Bandwidth Airwaves. I'm Meg Wilcox, and for the next hour you'll be hearing some of Ontario's best new sounds by some of its most talented young musicians. Liam Callan is going to tell you about growing up and how traveling the world has influenced his music. I'm Meg Wilcox, and you're listening to Bandwidth. Mike O'Neill was singing about making brand new starts, and today you'll be hearing a lot of fresh-faced Ontario musicians who are making their start in the industry. 16-year-old Liam Callan is an interesting guy to be playing on an Ontario-based music show, considering he's never actually lived in Ontario. Liam's actually been pretty much constantly on the move since he was born. His parents are from Burlington and Prince Edward County, but they're international teachers, so they've lived everywhere from Hong Kong to Turkey. But it was on Ontario turf at Sli-Fi Chapel Studios in Trenton where Liam recorded his new EP called Start It Over Again. Liam came by the studio recently to talk about the globe-trotting life.
I think I figured it out. I conquered all my doubt. Now. I could tell you what to do, but my life should be the clue.
You're an Ontarian, but the best way to put it is you've never actually lived in Ontario. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy trip. My dad's from Burlington and my mom's from Prince Edward County in Picton. And so I was born in Hong Kong and moved to Turkey for 5 years in Abu Dhabi, and I've just finished my 5th in Malaysia now.
Great, and why all the travel?
My father works as an international school principal, so that brings us around all over the world.
Oh, wow, cool. And you've also played, all over the world, too. What are some of the trips that you've done?
I've done several trips in Europe in the past couple of years. I've done London last year. I've done Greece, some of the Greek islands. I've done Jakarta. I've done Kuala Lumpur, of course. And this coming year, I'm going to the Philippines and Singapore again.
Great. Now, the work that you're doing individually right now is singer-songwriter, guitar-based. You also play the trombone.
Yes, I play the trombone for my school band, and that has branched off into different smaller jazz ensembles and little fun things like that do bring us around for some pretty good concerts.
Compared to doing the singer-songwriter guitar thing, what's it like to play in the ensembles, to play brass?
Oh, it's a totally different world in the large ensemble, because your job is to really make everyone else sound good. So especially playing brass, it's a lot more of a support role than doing my singer-songwriter thing, which is what I love. And it's really good to see that other side of it, being able to support people and being able to look at a larger musical picture at once.
How did you get your musical start?
Well, my dad plays guitar and sings too, so I was always looking at that growing up, and at age 9, I asked for a guitar for Christmas, and I ended up getting one, and my first teacher was a Filipino wandering minstrel. And that was quite the experience. He was honestly walking around at a bar my parents were at, and they approached him and said, "Hey, do you teach?" And he said, "Just a little bit." So I ended up working with him, and he gave me my start, and from there, I just started writing, and I was lucky enough to stumble across Brent Bodrug, and since then it's been amazing.
But we'll get to that in a moment. But I first want to ask a little bit about this wandering Filipino minstrel and those classes, those lessons. How did that work?
Well, he was one of the guys that you just walk up to and it's a challenge. You just throw songs at him that like Red Sovine and stuff, and they can play anything. Like anything you ask for. And we have a family friend, Randy, who actually makes a game out of it, asking the most obscure Canadian artists to these Filipino wandering minstrels, and they can play them. But it's hilarious. We asked this guy, his name was Jun Dadula, and I ended up working with him, and one of the first songs I walked away with when I could actually play was Bread's If.
Of all the things.
Of all the
Play.
If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you?
Yeah, I have pretty seriously weird musical tastes after being raised by what I like to call gypsy parents. They move around, and I was raised listening to Billy Bragg, Joy Division, just weird stuff that I have no right to know at my age. And I was always the kid sitting out on the other side of the playground with his CD player listening to ABBA or something that wasn't cool.
What would you say are your musical influences that are really coming out now in your work?
My biggest one is definitely John Mayer. I am a huge John Mayer fan. I have been forever. All of my stuff is really kind of, if you could imagine a John Mayer track unplugged and played on a nylon string. It's very calm, but at the same time it's upbeat, it's happy. And we have string arrangements in them too, which is, my policy is I like instruments made of wood. I don't like synthesizers and drum machines. I like organic stuff. It's what I'd call organic pop. It's very homegrown, very wooden instrument, very folk, not folksy, but pop played on folk instruments.
And what do you think sort of created that preference for you?
It all goes back to the Wandering Minstrel. Honestly. Yeah.
Theme of the interview.
Theme of the interview, yeah. But it's really just the culture I was raised in was not of all these heavy synthesizers and electronica. I was raised with really out there indie artists, looking up to that and going, man, they're different. There's no one like them. I want to do that. I want to be something that's not already out there. Because there's someone's going to be looking for something that's not there right now. And I want to be that something.
This was not part of the plan. Miles and miles between me and you. Distance to the promised land. But here we're sitting hand in hand until night falls and steals you away. And if we could just find a way to turn our today into tomorrow, I'd fall in love with you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing in Ontario this summer and last summer as well. So you've been recording in the Quinte area. How did that come about?
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, my mom's from Prince Edward County, and just across the way is Quinte. And so Brent's been working out of Quinte West, Trenton. And we ended up finding him through a friend of my dad's, because he's from the Burlington area as well. They were part of a high school band, and their mutual friend set me up with Brent. And I've gone back to Prince Edward County every summer, and I stay with my grandparents. And this gave me something to do, and there was really nothing else to do.
So tell me a bit about, you've been recording at the Sli-Fi Chapel. What's it like there, and what's the whole process been like?
Well, it's fantastic. It's totally lax. You just walk in, and you just let the creative juices flow. It's a big open concept studio with more guitars than you can shake a stick at, so I'm kind of in heaven, just running around. But you go in, and what our policy is you just sit down, you start writing a song, and you have 3 hours to do it in. And if in those 3 hours you don't get it done, it's not worth your time. So we go in, and last summer we wrote 3 songs in 2 days, and this summer we wrote 5 songs in 4 days. And especially because we have such time constraints, I'm only back for 5 weeks every year. And so we need to get everything done. We need to get the writing, the recording of my parts at least, all done in that time. So time is a very precious commodity when I'm back here.
I know that you originally came to the region because of your family connections. What do you think it adds to your songwriting?
You know, I'm what they call a third culture kid, which is I was raised overseas, but I truly call this land home, because it's the only place I do have a permanent connection to. My family's homes are here, my family are here. I move from country to country, and I know I can always come back and drive up the road and go, oh, I remember that when I was 3 years old. I really can't do that in the countries I've moved from, because I'll have forgotten, I'll have been there for only 3 years, 4 years. and coming back is like, man, this is comfortable, and I really can't wait till I live here.
When do you think that might be?
I got 2 more years of high school. I'm just going into 11th grade now. But after that, I am definitely moving back to hopefully go to university here and do all that.
Great. And what's up next for you?
Well, we've got these 5 tracks in production right now. We just cut the guitar and vocals for those before I've left, and we've cut percussion for them too. The string players are coming in hopefully in August, and then they'll just go into production, and hopefully they'll be as amazing as we hope they will be.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck on the new EP.
Thank you, Meg.
Chorus goes on, we gotta start it over again.
Showing off the benefits of being trained by Filipino minstrels, that's Liam Callan with the title track off his new EP called Start It Over Again. And that brings us to the end of our Youth Takeover episode. I'm Meg Wilcox. Thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon, and a special thanks to Jessa Runtsman, producer extraordinaire, for putting this episode together. If you need more bandwidth before next weekend, why not look us up on Twitter and Facebook at BandwidthCBC. We're also on the web at cbc.ca/bandwidth, and that's where you can find behind-the-scenes photos, today's playlist, and you can catch up on past feature interviews.